I always believed my life was simple but honest. I believed that love, patience, and effort could carry two people through anything. Every morning, I woke up beside Isla and thought, this is enough. We are enough. That morning, I smiled at her and said, I'll try to get overtime today. Maybe we can finally fix the leaking roof. She didn't look at me. She just said, do whatever you want. Her voice felt cold, but I ignored it. I had learned to ignore many things. Later, at work, my phone buzzed. It was my best friend, Zion. You sound tired, he said. I always am, I replied. But I'm fine. You're not fine, he said softly. You never are. You just pretend. I laughed weakly. That's life. You still coming over tonight? Yeah, I said. After dinner. Good, he said. Don't cancel. You need to talk. When I got home that evening, the apartment felt strange. Too quiet. Too clean. Isla was sitting on the couch, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't even glance up. We need to talk, she said. My heart dropped. What's wrong? She inhaled slowly. I want a divorce. I stared at her. What? I said I want a divorce. My throat tightened. Is this a joke? She finally looked at me, and there was no warmth in her eyes. I'm serious. Why? I asked. What did I do? You didn't do anything, she said flatly. That's the problem. I work every day, I said. I do everything I can. It's not enough, she replied. I felt dizzy. Not enough for what? For the life I want, she said. Silence stretched between us. My chest felt like it was collapsing. Talk to me, I whispered. There's nothing to explain, she said. There has to be, I said. We've been together for 8 years. And I've wasted them, she said. Her words cut deep. Wasted? I married you because I thought you'd become something, she said. I thought you'd rise. I'm trying, I said. Trying doesn't pay bills, she snapped. Trying doesn't give me comfort. Then what does? She hesitated, then said, Rayon Malik. The name hit me like a slap. Who? My partner, she said. I laughed in disbelief. You're what? My lover, she corrected calmly. My knees nearly gave out. How long? Long enough, she said. Who is he? A man who knows how to live, she said. A man with power, wealth, and ambition. So you cheated on me, I said. Yes, she replied without shame. Why? Because I was tired of being poor, she said. Tired of counting coins. Tired of broken dreams. I gave you everything I had, I said. That's exactly the problem, she replied. Everything you had was nothing. Her words crushed something inside me. I loved you. I know, she said. Did you ever love me? She stayed silent. Answer me, I begged. She looked away. I cared. That's not love, I said. No, she agreed. Tears burned my eyes. Then why marry me? For security, she said. You were safe. Kind. Predictable. I was your backup plan, I whispered. Yes, she admitted. I pressed my fist to my mouth, trying not to scream. I'm moving out, she said. The papers are ready. Already? I didn't want complications, she said. My chest hurt. What about everything we built? There's nothing worth keeping, she replied. I shook my head. You're cruel. I'm honest, she said. I walked into the bedroom and stared at the faded walls, the second-hand furniture, the tiny window. I remembered nights when we laughed, when we dreamed, when we promised forever. I returned to the living room. When? Tonight, she said. You won't even stay one more night? There's no point, she replied. My phone vibrated. It was my sister, Mira. Are you home? She asked. Yes, I said quietly. I made soup, she said. I'll bring it. No, I whispered. Don't come. Why? I'll call you later. I ended the call before she could argue. Isla stood up and pulled her suitcase toward the door. That's it? I asked. Yes, she said. No apology? For what? For destroying me, I said. She paused, then said, You'll survive. I don't know if I will, I replied. She opened the door. Goodbye, she said. The door closed behind her, and the silence screamed. I sank onto the floor. I don't know how long I stayed there. My phone buzzed again. It was Zion. Come over, he said. I can't, I whispered. Where are you? Home. I'm coming. He arrived within minutes, his face full of worry. What happened? He asked. She left, I said. Who? Isla. Why? She found someone richer. He clenched his jaw. I'm sorry. I wasn't enough, I said. You were, he said. She just wanted more. That still means I wasn't enough, I replied. He hugged me, but I felt hollow. Later that night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My chest felt tight, my thoughts heavy. I heard soft footsteps outside the door. Isla had returned. I stood silently in the hallway and heard her voice through the cracked door. Yes, she said softly. It's done. A man laughed on the other end. He believed everything, she said. Poor thing. My hands trembled. No, I don't feel bad, she continued. He was just a phase. Each word stabbed me. I deserve better, she said. I always did. She laughed again, light and carefree. I'm finally free, she whispered. I stepped back, my heart shattering into pieces. When she left again, I walked outside. Rain poured down, soaking my clothes, my hair, my skin. I welcomed it. I walked through the empty streets, my mind blank, my chest aching. I whispered into the storm, It's over. The rain swallowed my words. That night, my old life died. I still remember the first day I met Isla, because everything felt possible then, and I believed my life was finally beginning. You dropped this, she had said, handing me my notebook outside the college library, her fingers brushing mine for a second. I had laughed nervously and replied, Thanks, I'm always losing things. She smiled and said, Maybe you just need someone to remind you. That small moment grew into late-night talks, shared meals, and endless dreams. We used to sit on the rooftop of our tiny rented room, staring at the stars while she whispered, One day, we'll have a house with big windows and a quiet garden. I would squeeze her hand and promise, I'll make it happen, no matter how long it takes. I worked double shifts, skipped meals, and sold my old bike to pay our bills. When she felt tired, I cooked. When she cried, I listened. When she doubted herself, I lifted her up. We're a team, I always told her. As long as we stay together, we can survive anything. She used to nod and say, I trust you more than anyone. Those words echo in my head now like a cruel joke. That morning, she stood in our bedroom, folding her clothes into a suitcase. The sound of the zipper slicing through the silence made my chest tighten. Isla, I said, my voice shaking, we can still fix this. She didn't look at me. There's nothing to fix, she replied flatly. I stepped closer and whispered, we promised each other forever. She sighed and said, forever doesn't pay the bills. I swallowed hard. I'm trying. You know I am. She turned, her eyes cold. Trying isn't enough anymore. The doorbell rang, and my heart sank. She walked past me and opened the door. A tall man in a tailored suit stood there, holding a sleek car key and a polite smile. You must be him, he said, glancing at me like I was a problem to be solved. I'm Rayanne. I forced myself to nod. I'm her husband, I said quietly. He paused, then extended his hand. For now, he replied. I didn't take his hand. Isla stepped between us and said, Rayanne is waiting. My sister Mira rushed in, her eyes already red. Isla, please, she begged, grabbing her arm. Think about everything he's done for you. Isla pulled away. I've thought about it, she said. And I've made my choice. Mira's voice broke. You're destroying him. Isla replied, he'll survive. I laughed bitterly and asked, will I? She didn't answer. Rayanne cleared his throat. We should go, he said gently. Isla nodded and picked up her suitcase. I stood there, frozen, as she walked past me. Is this really goodbye? I asked. She hesitated for a second, then said, it's necessary. The door closed behind her, and the silence crushed me. Later, at the lawyer's office, I stared at the divorce papers while my hand trembled. Sign here, the lawyer said softly. I looked at Isla and asked, is there any part of you that still cares? She avoided my eyes. Care isn't enough, she repeated. I signed, feeling like I was carving my own grave. When I slid the papers back, Rayanne nodded once, satisfied. I wish you well, he said, and for the first time, I hated how calm he sounded. I walked out into the crowded street, the noise swallowing me whole. People rushed past, laughing, arguing, living, while I felt invisible. I wandered without direction, replaying every memory. Was I never enough? I whispered to myself. My phone buzzed, but I ignored it. I didn't want pity. I didn't want advice. I wanted the pain to stop. Night fell, and I found myself in a dim bar, the smell of alcohol burning my nose. Another, I muttered, pushing my empty glass forward. The bartender hesitated. You've had plenty, he said. I snapped, then give me one more. The liquid burned my throat, but the ache in my chest stayed. A stranger beside me asked, bad day? I laughed hollowly. Bad life, I replied. Images of Isla packing, Rayanne's smirk, and Myra's tears blended together. Maybe I failed, I said out loud. Maybe I was never meant to win. The stranger shrugged and said, we all lose sometimes. I slammed my glass down. This wasn't a game. My hands shook as I paid and stumbled outside. The cold air slapped my face, but I barely felt it. I walked through empty streets, rain starting to fall, soaking my clothes. What's the point? I whispered. If love can vanish so easily, what's left? My thoughts turned dark, heavy, and dangerous. Maybe disappearing would be easier, I murmured. Maybe everyone would be better off. I leaned against a wall, breathing hard, fighting the storm inside me. My phone rang again. This time, I answered. Where are you? Mira cried. I'm fine, I lied. Come home, she begged. Please. I closed my eyes and said, I don't know where home is anymore. The line went silent, and I felt the last thread holding me together begin to snap. I kept walking until the city blurred into shadows. Every step felt heavier, every breath harder. I gave everything, I whispered into the night. And it still wasn't enough. The rain mixed with my tears, and for the first time, I truly understood how completely my marriage had died, leaving me alone in the wreckage, searching for a reason to survive. I sat behind the steering wheel with shaking hands, the rain crashing against the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists, and I whispered, "If this is how it ends, maybe it's better." The road blurred as my tears mixed with the storm. "I gave everything," I muttered. Why wasn't it enough? My foot pressed harder on the accelerator, and the engine screamed back at me. "I don't care anymore," I said out loud. "Just let it stop." The streetlights stretched into glowing lines, and the city became a smear of color and noise. My chest felt hollow, like something essential had been ripped away and left a raw, burning wound. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. "No more," I whispered. "No more pain, no more begging, no more trying." The rain grew heavier, the road slick and shining. I swerved slightly, then corrected, my heart pounding. "Maybe this is mercy," I said, my voice barely audible over the thunder. The memories attacked me without warning. Isla's smile, her cold eyes, Rayon's calm superiority, Myra's tears. "Stop," I begged myself. "Just stop." Then the headlights appeared. Blinding. Sudden. Too close. I slammed the brakes and turned the wheel, but the world spun. There was a deafening crash, a violent jolt, and a sharp, searing pain tearing through my body. Glass exploded around me. Metal screamed. My head snapped forward, and everything went dark. Voices drifted in and out of the blackness. "Pulse is weak. He's losing too much blood. Get him to the ER, now." I wanted to speak, to say I was still here, but my lips wouldn't move. The pain faded into numbness, and I sank deeper. When I opened my eyes, harsh white light burned into them. Machines beeped softly around me. My body felt heavy, broken, and distant. I tried to move my fingers. Nothing. Panic surged. "Help," I tried to say, but only a faint sound escaped. A nurse leaned over me. "He's waking up," she said. "Easy. Don't try to move." A doctor stepped into view. "You're lucky," he said quietly. "Another few minutes, and you wouldn't have made it." I stared at him, my thoughts slow and tangled. "What happened?" I whispered. He replied, "A major car accident. Internal bleeding, multiple fractures, head trauma. You were on the edge." Days passed in a haze of painkillers and restless sleep. I drifted in and out, listening to the machines and the murmurs of hospital life. One night, I heard voices outside my room. "Did you see the news?" a nurse whispered. "They reported him dead. Wrong ID from the crash scene." Another voice replied, "That poor family." My heart slammed. "Dead?" I whispered to myself. Later, a man entered my room, tall, calm, and sharply dressed despite the late hour. He pulled a chair close to my bed and said, "So, you're the man the world thinks is gone." I stared at him, confused. "Who are you?" I asked weakly. He smiled faintly. "Hassan Qureshi." I swallowed. "They think I'm dead?" He nodded. "A tragic mistake. Your wallet was thrown from the car." Another victim had similar details. The media moved fast. My chest tightened. "Then correct it," I said. He leaned forward. "You could. Or you could disappear." I frowned. "Why would I do that?" His gaze softened. "Because sometimes death is the only way to escape a life that's already destroyed." His words cut deep, echoing my darkest thoughts. "You've been betrayed," he said. "You're broken. You're lost. I can see it in your eyes." I whispered, "You don't know me." He replied, "I know pain. And I know what it means to be reborn." I turned my face away. "I don't want to play games." He said calmly, "This isn't a game. This is an opportunity. Let the man you were stay dead. Become someone stronger." I laughed weakly. "Stronger for what?" He answered, "For yourself." Silence stretched between us. Finally, I asked, "Why help me?" His jaw tightened. "Because I once lay in a bed like this, betrayed by the people I trusted most. I chose to survive, and it changed everything." I studied him. "What happened to you?" He exhaled slowly. "My brother stole my company. My wife sided with him. They left me with nothing. I almost ended it." "What stopped you?" I asked. He replied, "Anger. And discipline. And a promise to never be weak again." He leaned closer. "I rebuilt from nothing. I learned control, strategy, and patience. Now, I help others who stand at the edge." My heart pounded. "If I disappear," I said, "my sister will think I'm dead." His eyes softened. "She will mourn. But one day, she will meet a man stronger than the one she lost." Tears filled my eyes. "And my wife?" I whispered. He paused. "She already buried you in her heart. Let the world do the same." I closed my eyes. Images of Isla laughing with another man burned behind my lids. "Maybe," I said slowly, "the man I was deserves to die." He nodded. "Then let me save the man you can become." Weeks later, I left the hospital in secret, wrapped in bandages and shadows. Hassan took me to a quiet estate far from the city. "From now on," he said, "you listen, you learn, and you rebuild." Every morning began before sunrise. "Control your breath," he ordered. "Control your emotions. If you master these, no one can break you." We trained relentlessly. Physical conditioning, mental discipline, strategic thinking. "Your anger is a weapon," he told me. "But only if you wield it wisely." I struggled, failed, collapsed, and rose again. "Don't pity yourself," he snapped once. "Pity is poison." At night, we talked. "Revenge?" I asked. He shook his head. "Power. Self-mastery. Let karma do the rest." I clenched my fists. "They destroyed me." He met my gaze. "No. They revealed you." Months passed. My body healed. My mind sharpened. The man in the mirror began to look unfamiliar. "Who am I now?" I asked one evening. He replied, "Someone free." One night, I stood alone on the balcony, staring at the distant city lights. "Goodbye," I whispered to the life I lost. "You did your best." In the quiet, I felt something shift inside me. The grief remained, but it no longer owned me. When I turned back, Hassan was watching. "Are you ready?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "Let the old me stay dead," I said. "I'm ready to live again." The first morning I woke up without pain, I stared at the ceiling and whispered, "So this is what being alive feels like." Hassan stood near the window and said calmly, "This is what surviving feels like. Living comes later." I pushed myself up and asked, "What happens now?" He turned and replied, "Now, you become someone new." Every day began before sunrise. Hassan would knock once and say, "Up." I would groan, and he would add, "Pain made you weak. Discipline will make you strong." In the gym, he watched me struggle through each rep. "Breathe," he ordered. "Control your body. Control your mind." I clenched my teeth and said, "I can't." He replied, "You will." When I collapsed onto the floor, Gasping, he looked down at me and said, "Stand." I shook my head. "I'm done." He said quietly, "You're just beginning." At night, we sat across from each other with books and screens. "Read," he said, sliding a tablet toward me. "Finance. Market psychology. Negotiation." I rubbed my eyes. "I'm exhausted." He replied, "So was I when they took everything from me." I swallowed and asked, "Did it ever stop hurting?" He paused. "No. But it stopped controlling me." Slowly, the days stitched themselves into weeks. My body grew stronger. My hands steadier. My thoughts sharper. One evening, I looked into the mirror and whispered, "I barely recognize you." Hassan appeared behind me and said, "Good. The man you were is gone." I turned and asked, "Then who am I becoming?" He replied, "Someone who cannot be broken." We practiced conversations, negotiations, and confrontations. "Speak less," he told me. "Listen more." When I argued, he cut me off. "Your emotions are loud. Silence is power." I tried again, calmer. He nodded. "Better." One afternoon, he placed a thin folder on the table and said, "Your new identity." I opened it and read the name. R.I.'s Khan. My chest tightened. "That's not me." He leaned forward. "It will be." I whispered, "And the old me?" He answered, "Dead." I closed the folder slowly. Then Orai's Khan begins today. As Orai's, I entered a world of numbers, strategy, and influence. Hassan introduced me to his trusted circle. "This is Orai's," he said. "He's learning." A stern man across the table asked, "What do you know?" I replied evenly, enough to stay quiet. The man smiled faintly. "Smart. We build carefully. Small investments. Silent partnerships. Never announce your arrival," Hassan reminded me. "Let them feel your presence only when it's too late." I nodded. "Like a shadow." He replied, "Like a ghost." Late one night, I asked, "Can I know about her?" Hassan hesitated. "If you're ready." My throat tightened. "Tell me." He opened his tablet and said, "She married Rayon 3 months after your accident. She lives in a penthouse now." My fingers curled into fists. "And my sister?" I whispered. He lowered his gaze. "She visits your grave every week." The room felt suddenly too small. "She thinks I'm gone," I said hoarsely. Hassan nodded. "She mourns you deeply." I turned away, biting back tears. "I want to see her." He shook his head. "Not yet. If she knows, the world will know." I swallowed. "I hate this." He replied gently, "You chose rebirth. Death comes with a cost." Days later, I sat alone, staring at the city lights. "Ayla married him," I said quietly. "Did she ever look back?" Hassan answered, "Only once. Not with love. With relief." The words burned, but strangely, they steadied me. "Then I'm done bleeding for her," I said. He studied me. "What do you feel now?" I thought carefully. "Clarity." He nodded. "That's when power begins." Together, we mapped Rayyan's empire. Hassan pointed at the screen and said, "Real estate. Imports. Tech investments. Pride." I raised an eyebrow. "Pride?" He replied, "His greatest weakness." I leaned forward. "Then that's where we start." We made small moves. Silent purchases. Strategic delays. "Patience," Hassan whispered. "Let him tighten his own noose." I watched numbers shift and contracts bend. It feels unreal, I admitted. He replied, that's because true control is quiet. One evening, I asked, is this revenge? He met my eyes. This is balance. I exhaled slowly. Then I'll be precise. I adopted calm as armor. In meetings, when provoked, I smiled. Interesting point, I would say, while mentally rewriting the entire deal. Hassan once said, you no longer react. You decide. I realized he was right. The rage that once ruled me now sat behind glass, silent and contained. Late at night, memories still crept in. Isla's laughter. Myra's gentle voice. I would whisper, I'm still here, into the darkness. Hassan once overheard and said, hold on to that. Just don't let it weaken you. I nodded. Months passed. Our eyes began to gain quiet recognition. Your instincts are sharp, one investor said. I replied politely, I've learned from mistakes. Inside, I thought, from devastation. Then came the first real crack. Hassan placed a report in front of me. Rayan lost 2 key contracts today, he said. My pulse quickened. Because of us? He nodded. Because of you. I stared at the screen. This is only the beginning. He leaned back. How does it feel? I considered the question. Not satisfying, I admitted. Just necessary. He smiled faintly. That means you're ready. As the weeks rolled on, I watched Rayan's empire wobble. Subtle. Almost invisible. But I saw it. He won't understand, I said. Hassan replied, he doesn't need to. Only the fall matters. One night, I stood before the mirror again. Our eyes I whispered. A ghost reborn. My reflection stared back, calm and unreadable. I'm not chasing revenge, I told myself. I'm building justice. Hassan appeared in the doorway. Your patience is your greatest weapon, he said. I nodded. And my silence. He smiled. Exactly. As the city slept, I sat alone, planning, waiting, and breathing through the quiet. The pain still lived inside me, but it no longer screamed. It whispered, guiding my steps with clarity instead of rage. And in that silence, I prepared for the day when the past would finally face me, and realize that the man it destroyed had returned, stronger than ever. The morning of my funeral felt unreal. I watched from a distance, disguised, my face hidden beneath a hood. People gathered in black, their faces solemn, whispers cutting through the cold air. I stayed silent, my heart thundering. I saw Mira first. She didn't see me, of course, but her grief ripped through me like a blade. She leaned against the casket, trembling. Why did this happen? She whispered. I wanted to go to her, to hold her, but I couldn't. Not yet. Isla arrived last. She moved with careful steps, almost timid, almost like she wasn't sure she belonged here. I felt my stomach twist. I overheard her murmuring to herself, I can't believe this. I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in months, anger, yes, but something else, too. Pain, deep and personal. A friend of hers, a woman in a blue coat, tried to console her. It's okay. He's gone. No, Isla whispered. I don't believe it. I stayed in the shadows, every step she took toward the casket tightening the knot in my chest. I could hear her heartbeat in my ears. Every breath. Every sob. Mira was still at the front, holding herself together as best she could. I could see the strain in her shoulders. I wanted to call out to her, tell her I was alive, but the timing wasn't right. I had to see her face, to see Isla's face before I revealed myself. The priest began speaking, but I barely heard him. The world was quiet, except for the soft, muffled sound of Isla's crying. She knelt beside the casket, touching it gently. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Her voice cracked, breaking into a sob. I felt something stir inside me. This was the moment. The moment she realized what she had done. The moment she understood the consequences. "You left me," I whispered under my breath. "You left me for him, and now." I stepped closer, careful not to be seen. I watched as her tears fell, streaking her face. I remembered the nights she mocked me on the phone, laughing at my failures. She hadn't known I was listening that night. But now, she was facing her own guilt. "I was wrong," Isla whispered. I didn't understand." Mira reached over to hold her, but Isla pushed her hand away. "No one can fix this," she said. "No one can make it right." I clenched my fists. Her despair was beautiful and painful at the same time. She had wanted me gone, and now she was finally seeing the emptiness that followed. A man in a black suit, likely Rayan, stood behind her, stiff and uncomfortable. I could see his pride cracking. He didn't know how to react. He couldn't fix this either. Isla leaned closer to the casket, almost pressing her forehead against it. "I didn't know," she whispered again. "I didn't know what I was losing." I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Satisfaction because karma had a way of making the cruel feel pain, and sorrow because I had loved her once. Because I had loved her. Mira stood, her hands covering her face, crying openly. I wanted to hug her, to tell her I was alive, to show her she wasn't alone. But I stayed hidden, knowing this scene had to play out. Isla had to feel the weight of her choices. "You think this hurts me?" Isla's voice was small, fragile, but broken. "Do you know how it feels to realize you made a mistake this big?" I whispered to the wind, "I do. I do." I saw Rayan shift nervously, glance at her with a faint smirk that didn't reach his eyes. I remembered him from the past, from her betrayal. I had imagined this moment countless times. And now, seeing it unfold, it felt surreal. Isla's hands trembled as she touched the casket again. I never thought it would end like this," she said. I remembered the nights I had begged her to stay, the nights I had sacrificed, the nights I had trusted her completely. And now, she was here, crying over a shell of a life she destroyed. I heard a quiet sob behind me and turned slightly. A family friend whispered to Isla, "She's gone. There's nothing you can do." Isla shook her head violently. I can't accept this," she screamed softly, more to herself than anyone else. I didn't want it like this." The irony was exquisite. She wanted me gone. She got her wish. But the wish came at a cost she couldn't imagine. I stepped closer, just enough to hear her clearly. "You wanted me gone," I muttered to myself. "And you got it." Her crying intensified. "I loved him," she said suddenly, as if justifying herself. "I loved him, and now he's gone." I felt a pang in my chest. Part of me wanted to reach out, to tell her how hollow her words sounded. Part of me wanted to disappear, to let her suffer in her ignorance. I stayed in the shadows, letting the rain from the night before soak me further, feeling the cold settle into my bones. I could have walked up to her, could have revealed the truth, but the timing wasn't mine. The timing belonged to the story that had been set in motion months ago, the plan I had carefully built with Hassan. "You thought leaving me would make you happy," I whispered under my breath. "But look at you now." Her hands covered her face again, trembling uncontrollably. Rayan's pride crumbled completely. I could see it in the way he shifted, unable to look at her. I realized then that revenge wasn't about violence or confrontation. It wasn't about yelling or breaking people down publicly. It was about letting the truth unfold naturally, letting the consequences of their choices hit them with full force. Isla had done that to me once, laughing, mocking, celebrating her freedom. Now it was her turn to feel the emptiness, the regret, and the helplessness. I stepped back, feeling the last threads of my old self break away. This was the emotional turning point. I was no longer the man who begged, who pleaded, who cried over betrayal. I was the man who had survived. The man who had transformed. I looked at Isla one last time, her body shaking with grief, her eyes wet with tears that couldn't undo the past. I whispered softly, "I am alive. And you will remember this pain forever." Then I walked away. The cold air hit me, the cemetery quiet except for the distant murmur of people leaving. My chest still ached, my heart heavy, but I felt a strange liberation. I was watching the world I had lost, seeing the truth of betrayal unfold, and finally, I could breathe. For the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt reborn. I watched everything fall apart from the shadows. Rayan thought he was untouchable because he had money, influence, and the woman I once loved. He wasn't. Not in my world. I had spent months building this quietly, ensuring each move was precise, undetectable. Every lawsuit, every failed deal, every minor scandal I seeded into his empire was a drop in the ocean. And the ocean was swelling. I remembered Zion's words during my planning phase: the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But don't lose yourself in it. I had never felt more alive. It started with whispers among his partners. One called me Orai's Khan, and he laughed it off. "Who cares about that? Nobody," he said. The arrogance of men like him was always their weakness. The next week, I saw the cracks. Rayan called his lawyers in a panic. "How did this happen?" he shouted at someone on the phone. No, that's impossible." That contract was ironclad. I smiled in the cafe, watching him pace on a video feed I had obtained through subtle manipulation. His empire was unraveling. Every asset he thought was secure was suddenly questioned. Isla noticed too. I could tell from the subtle changes in her demeanor whenever I observed her in business circles. She looked different now, tense, insecure, anxious. She kept adjusting her expensive scarf, flicking her nails nervously, and avoiding my eyes when our paths crossed. "I can't believe this," she whispered to Rayan during one of their meetings. "Don't panic," he said, though his voice was brittle, controlled. "We'll fix this." "No," she said. "It's too late. You can't fix this." I couldn't help but chuckle quietly. Karma was a slow river, but it always carved deep canyons. Rayan didn't see me, of course. That was the beauty of it. The man who had stolen my life, my marriage, my peace, didn't even know I was standing behind the scenes, watching him drown in the consequences of his arrogance. I heard him on a phone call later that week. "Who leaked the contracts?" he barked. "I want names." "You don't know what you're asking for," a voice replied calmly. "You might not like the answer." His hand slammed onto the table. "I don't care. Find them." The empire he had built with his own ego was collapsing because of the holes I had quietly drilled. Every minor failure compounded, every partner's doubt magnified. Isla came to me indirectly, not knowing it was me who orchestrated this. She contacted an associate of mine under a false name. I need help," she whispered over the phone. "Everything is falling apart. Please, someone help me." I listened quietly, my fingers tightening around the edge of my coffee cup. She had begged me for guidance, not realizing she was speaking to the man she had abandoned. "Who's calling?" Zion asked later when I recounted the events. "Someone from the past," I said, smiling faintly. She doesn't know it yet, but she's learning the hard way. The day Rayanne's major deal collapsed, I was there, not in person, but watching the fallout. The news spread through the market like wildfire. Analysts questioned his credibility. Investors pulled out. His empire started losing millions in mere hours. Isla's calls to him became frantic. "Rayanne, we need to think. We need to." "Stop," he shouted. "There's nothing left to think about. We're done." I could almost see the panic in her eyes through the snippets of video and photographs I gathered. For once, she was powerless. That familiar arrogance that had once humiliated me was gone. Mira called me that evening. I heard, her voice was hesitant. "I don't want to sound happy about it, but is it true? Is he failing?" "Yes," I said quietly. "He's failing. And she's feeling it too." "Are you okay with this?" she asked softly. I paused. "I don't hate him," I admitted. "I hate what he took from me. But this isn't revenge. This is consequences. Just consequences." Mira sighed. "I hope you're not losing yourself in this." "I'm not," I said firmly. "I'm more myself than I've ever been." Days passed, and the empire continued to crumble. Lawsuits piled up. Board members turned on him. Employees leaked damaging information to the press. Rayanne looked like a man stripped of armor, every move desperate, every word faltering. Isla finally appeared in public, her expensive attire not hiding the stress etched into her face. I remembered the nights she had mocked me on the phone, laughing at my struggles. Now, she faced her own collapse. She whispered to a colleague, I never imagined this. It's all falling apart." The colleague tried to reassure her. "You can recover. You're smart. You'll find a way." "No," she said quietly. "I don't think there's a way." I felt a cold satisfaction, a strange mix of pity and triumph. She had learned the price of leaving someone who truly cared. And it wasn't something you could undo with wealth or influence. Rayanne called her into his office one afternoon. I watched the recording I had acquired. His hands trembled as he slammed papers onto his desk. "This is a disaster," he barked. "I don't know who's sabotaging us." "I don't know either," she whispered. "But it's too late, Rayanne." He glared at her. "Too late? We can fix this." "No," she said, her voice breaking. "We can't. We're done. I can't save this." Her confession was almost poetic. She had once abandoned me for this man, for this life. And now, she was powerless. I couldn't help but feel a strange emptiness. This was the revenge I had built patiently, strategically, with nothing but observation and planning. And yet, it didn't feel like celebration. It felt like closure. I called Zion that night. "It's over," I said. "For them?" he asked. "For me," I corrected. "For me, it's finally over." He laughed softly. "You sound calm." "I am calm," I said. "I'm alive, Zion. I survived everything they threw at me. I survived myself." "You deserve this peace," he said. "I think I do," I said, staring out the window at the city lights. "But I also think I've learned something. Revenge isn't about happiness. It's about justice. And now I've witnessed it." The days that followed were surreal. Isla and Rayanne struggled to salvage whatever dignity they had left. Public scandals, financial failures, and personal arguments painted a vivid picture of what betrayal costs. I saw her cry over decisions she couldn't undo, hear her plead for guidance she wouldn't have accepted from me. I stayed hidden, letting her suffer without interference. I had chosen patience. I had chosen to let karma work naturally. The irony was intoxicating. She had wanted me gone. She had mocked my struggles. And now, she was facing the collapse of everything she had fought to achieve. I whispered to the night sky, "This is your life now. This is what it feels like." And I finally allowed myself to breathe. I saw her again that evening, though she didn't know it was me. She stepped into the cafe, her hair tied loosely, her expensive coat hiding nothing of the tension in her shoulders. I had arranged for this chance encounter carefully. She had no idea who I was now. "Can you help me?" she whispered to the waiter, her voice trembling. I'm desperate." I sat at a corner table, watching, listening. Every word she spoke cut into me like glass. She had finally come to me for help, not knowing I was me. "Of course," I heard the waiter reply. "What do you need?" "I need financial advice. Something to get me back on my feet." I smiled faintly, my chest tight with conflicting emotions. She had begged for comfort, for guidance, and I had been the one she had abandoned. Now, she had no clue she was speaking to the man who had rebuilt himself from the ruins she caused. "You'll have to explain your situation," I heard her say. "Not much to explain," she replied. "Just, everything is falling apart." I leaned back, letting her words wash over me. Months of planning had led to this moment. She was finally vulnerable, finally powerless. The waiter scribbled notes, but I barely heard him. I was lost in the sound of her voice, the tremor, the guilt that had begun to seep in. I never imagined it would end like this," she said softly, more to herself than to the waiter. "I thought I had control." "You're going to have to work hard," the waiter said gently. "It won't be easy." "I know," she whispered. I don't want to fail." I felt my stomach tighten. I wanted to stand up and yell, "You think you've suffered? You have no idea." But I stayed. Quiet. Watching. She pulled out a notebook, scribbling furiously. I could see the panic and fear in her eyes, a reflection of all the nights she had ignored mine. I need someone to trust," she said, almost to herself. I muttered under my breath, "And now, you speak to me." Hours passed. She finally looked up, exhaustion and despair etched across her face. "I don't know what to do next," she whispered. I couldn't resist any longer. I walked forward slowly, letting her notice my presence only gradually. "You might want to rethink that," I said softly. Her eyes shot up. Who are you?" she stammered, taking a small step back. "I'm someone you abandoned," I said calmly. "Someone you left for money, for comfort, for a life you thought you deserved." Her face went pale. I don't understand." "You do," I said. "You know exactly what I mean." Her voice faltered, tears gathering. I thought I was doing the right thing." "Right thing?" I laughed bitterly. "You betrayed me. You mocked me behind my back. You walked away like it meant nothing." I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "Didn't mean to hurt me?" I repeated, voice rising slightly. "You called me a fool. You laughed at my struggles. You left me while I loved you, while I trusted you." Her lips trembled. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. "Confused?" I snapped. "You knew exactly what you wanted. Money. Status. Someone to carry you into comfort while I stayed, invisible." She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was wrong. I was so wrong." "I know," I said quietly, sitting down across from her. Do you know what it feels like to be abandoned, to be humiliated, to realize that the one person you trusted doesn't care about your pain? She shook her head, tears streaming. I don't deserve forgiveness. No, I said. You don't. Not yet. I would give anything to take it back, she whispered. To fix what I did. You can't, I said. You can't undo the past. You can't fix the years you wasted. You can't take away the nights I cried alone, wondering why you left me. Her hands shook as she reached for the table. Please, tell me what to do. I looked at her, my chest heavy with emotions I didn't want to fully confront. Anger. Love. Pain. Satisfaction. Sadness. I had spent months planning this moment, but nothing had prepared me for how fragile she looked now, the woman who had once seemed invincible to me. You can try to survive, I said softly. You can try to make amends with yourself, but you will never find what you lost with me. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, I said, leaning forward, my voice steady, that I am alive. I survived everything you did. I rebuilt myself from the ground up. And now, you see what your choices have cost you. Her face went white. You're alive? I nodded slowly. I am. And the man you knew, he's gone. What's left is someone stronger, smarter, and untouchable by your betrayals. She fell back into her chair, trembling. I can't. I thought. You thought I was gone forever, I said quietly. You thought I would disappear, broken, powerless. And yet here I am. Her hands covered her face again, shaking with sobs. I don't deserve to see you, she whispered. You're right, I said. You don't. But you will remember this moment forever. The moment you realized the cost of leaving me. I'm sorry, she whispered again. I was cruel, I was selfish, I was blind. Yes, I said softly. You were. And now you feel it. Now you understand what betrayal truly costs. She didn't argue. She didn't fight. She sat there, broken, facing the truth she had ignored for so long. You have one chance, I said finally, my voice calm but firm. One chance to decide who you want to be from now on. But know this, you can never reclaim what you took from me. That part of my life is gone forever. I understand, she whispered, tears falling freely now. I stood up slowly. Good. Then remember it. Remember me. Remember what it feels like to lose someone who truly loved you. She looked up, her eyes full of tears, fear, and regret. I will remember. I walked toward the door, feeling the weight of months, maybe years, lift off my shoulders. I had faced the woman who destroyed me, and I had not faltered. I had seen her broken. I had seen the truth reflected in her eyes. Outside, the cool evening air hit me. I breathed in slowly, letting it fill me. I had built myself back from nothing. I had survived betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak. I had turned my pain into clarity. And now, I was free. I walked away from her that night and didn't look back. My footsteps echoed through the empty street, each one a reminder that the man I had been no longer existed. I wasn't the desperate, broken man she left behind. I was someone new. The next morning, Mira called. Are you okay? I am, I said quietly. Better than I have been in years. You sound different, she said. I feel different, I admitted. I've stopped chasing what I can't have. I've stopped being a ghost of the past. I'm finally living. You should come home, she said softly. Let's start over, together. I smiled faintly. I'd like that. When I arrived at the apartment we had shared, she was waiting. She didn't hug me immediately. Instead, she just looked at me, her eyes searching for signs of the man she remembered. "Are you really okay?" she asked finally. "I am," I said. "I've accepted it. The past is gone. All of it. What matters is what we do now." Mira nodded, tears glistening. "I'm glad. I've missed you. I've missed having my brother around. I felt a warmth I hadn't felt in months." "I've missed you too," I admitted. "And I'm not leaving again." Days passed. I focused on rebuilding my life, quietly. Work became my sanctuary. Friends like Zion stayed close, helping me navigate the calm that came after the storm. I avoided Isla entirely, choosing silence over confrontation. I didn't need revenge anymore, I had closure. One evening, Mira asked, "Do you ever think about her?" I paused. "I do. But not the way I used to. I think about what I've learned. About myself. About how to survive, even when someone you love betrays you." "You're strong," she said softly. "I had to be," I admitted. "Or I wouldn't be here." I had invested months into watching her suffer, listening to her regret. I had the chance to confront her fully, to show her every scar she left me with. But I didn't. Not anymore. I chose my life over her apologies, my future over her guilt. Later, Zion met me at a cafe. "You changed," he said, watching me with curious eyes. "I had to," I replied. "I can't live in the past. I can't let her actions control my present or future. I've got to move forward." "Does it hurt?" he asked. Seeing her suffer?" I sipped my coffee, considering. "It did at first. But now, it's not about her anymore. It's about me. I survived. I rebuilt. And that's all that matters." Zion nodded. "You're free, then?" "Yes," I said, finally feeling it. Free. The city felt different now. Every street, every building reminded me of the man I was, and the man I had become. I could walk past memories without flinching. I could see her name without cringing. I could breathe without guilt. Mira and I spent evenings talking about life, laughing quietly, planning small adventures together. She reminded me of joy I had forgotten existed. One night, as we sat on the balcony, Mira asked, "Do you ever regret staying alive?" I shook my head. No. Because staying alive meant I could rebuild. It meant I could find strength I didn't know I had. It meant I could forgive myself for loving someone who didn't deserve it. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. I smiled. "I'm proud of me, too." Weeks turned into months. I focused on myself, on my work, on my health. I built a life that was mine entirely, untainted by betrayal. I learned that survival wasn't just about living, it was about thriving after loss. Then one day, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name in familiar handwriting. My chest tightened. I didn't open it immediately. I let it sit on the table for hours, thinking about what it might contain. Finally, I opened it. Inside, a single note. "I am sorry. I was wrong. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I understand if you never want to see me again." It was from her. Isla. I read it twice, then placed it carefully back in the envelope. My heart didn't race. I didn't feel anger. I felt calm. I whispered to myself, "I'm done. This chapter is over." Mira walked in and glanced at me. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I said. "Better than okay. I've chosen my ending." "What do you mean?" I mean, I'm done chasing the past. I'm done letting others define my worth. I've survived betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation. Now it's time to live, fully and freely, for me. Mira smiled, understanding. Then let's live. And we did. I returned to work with renewed focus. Business, friends, family, laughter, small victories, they all became the pillars of my new life. No one could take that away. Not her. Not Ryan. Not the memories that once haunted me. One evening, Zion asked, "Do you ever want revenge? Just one last act?" I shook my head. Revenge isn't satisfaction. It's just another form of pain. I've had enough pain. I choose peace. I choose me. Wise, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I've learned that the real victory isn't in making someone suffer, I said, it's in surviving, in reclaiming your life, in walking away stronger than ever. The city lights reflected in my eyes, bright and endless. I felt whole for the first time in years. Isla and Rayan? They faded from my life naturally. Her regrets stayed with her. His failures became public knowledge. I didn't need to interfere. I didn't need to watch closely. Nature and consequence had done their work, and I had done mine. I had survived and transformed. I remembered the nights I cried alone, the nights I begged for a sign, a chance, a life that felt fair. And now, I smiled, knowing those nights were the reason I could appreciate the life I had built. I am alive, I whispered into the night. I am free. I am myself. Mira joined me on the balcony, leaning lightly against me. And you'll stay that way, she said. Yes, I said. I will. The past existed only as a memory. Pain existed only as a lesson. And I existed as the man I chose to be, strong, alive, and free from the shadows that once haunted me. The choice was mine. The ending was mine. And for the first time, I was certain I would never look back. It had been months since I truly stepped into the life I had rebuilt. My apartment was quiet, filled only with the hum of the city outside and the soft sound of Myra's laughter as she cooked in the kitchen. I had finally learned that peace didn't come from revenge, it came from survival, from reclaiming yourself piece by piece. But that night, something stirred. A need I hadn't felt in a long time. To confront. To step fully into the world I had been forced out of. Not for revenge, not for anger, only to remind the world I was alive. I arrived outside the old apartment complex where Isla had lived before. I knew she still had connections there. Rayan had vanished from public life entirely, broken in ways I had anticipated. She hadn't forgiven herself. I could see it in the whispers I caught through her acquaintances. I let myself in quietly, climbing the stairs two at a time. My heart beat fast, not with fear, not with anger, but with the strange thrill of being unseen, of being in control. And there she was. Isla. Sitting on the couch, alone, staring blankly at the wall. Her hair was disheveled, her expensive clothes replaced with something simpler, worn. She looked smaller. Vulnerable in a way she never had when she held the world in her hands. I cleared my throat. She jumped violently. Who's there?" she whispered. Her voice shook. I stepped into the light slowly, letting my presence fill the room. "It's me," I said quietly. Her eyes widened, and she stumbled backward, nearly falling over herself. You're alive?" "Yes," I said simply. "I'm alive." Tears formed instantly in her eyes. I thought you were gone." "I know," I said. "That was the point. You thought I was gone, weak, broken. But I wasn't. I survived. I rebuilt. I became something you could never destroy. She sank to her knees, shaking her head. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. You knew, I said sharply, though not unkindly. You knew what you were doing when you left me. You knew the damage you caused. And now, you're finally facing it. Her hands covered her face. I can't believe this. I thought I could erase you. I thought life would forgive me. Life doesn't forgive easily, I said. And neither should I. But I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to show you the consequences of your choices. She looked up at me then, tears streaking her cheeks. I've been miserable. Everything I tried, it all fell apart. Rayan, he's gone. Everything I thought I had, gone. And I can't change what I did to you. I walked closer, letting her feel my presence without touching. No, you can't. That's the lesson. You can't undo the past. You can't reclaim what you destroyed. But you can survive it. You can live with it. You can choose to be a better person, even if you can't be the one you betrayed. Her body trembled. Do you hate me? She asked quietly. I paused, thinking carefully. I won't lie. I felt hatred once. I felt rage and humiliation. But now? Now I feel clarity. I survived your betrayal. I grew because of it. And I am stronger. So no, I don't hate you. I don't need you in my life anymore. I understand, she whispered, the words almost breaking. You should, I said. You should understand that actions have consequences. That pain you inflicted doesn't disappear just because you cry over it. It stays with you. It shapes you. And hopefully, it teaches you something. She nodded silently, unable to speak. I could see every memory she had ignored, every lie she had told, every laugh she had shared with Rayan at my expense, reflected in her eyes now. I've waited for this moment, I admitted quietly. Not for revenge, not for satisfaction. But to remind myself that I am alive. That I survived. That you can't erase me. She shivered. I never imagined you'd return. I thought I had won everything. You didn't, I said softly. You thought you had me gone. You thought you had erased my existence. But here I am. Stronger, wiser, unbroken. And that's the difference between you and me. I survived. You are learning. Her body shook, and I realized she was finally facing the full weight of her betrayal. Every moment she had abandoned me, every cruel word, every laugh at my expense, it all came back to her now. I deserve this, she whispered, barely audible. Yes, I said quietly. You do. And yet, I don't need to punish you. Life is doing that already. I am here only as proof. Proof that even when you destroy someone, they can rebuild themselves stronger than ever. She swallowed hard, tears rolling down her face. I can't ask for forgiveness, can I? No, I said firmly. Not now. Maybe not ever. But that's not your point. The point is learning. The point is living with the truth. The point is being accountable for what you did. I see it now, she said softly. I finally see it. I nodded. Good. That's all I needed from this. Nothing more. Nothing less. The room was silent except for her quiet sobs. I didn't sit. I didn't console. I stood, observing, knowing the lesson had been delivered. She had faced the full consequences, fully and utterly, and now she was finally, broken enough to understand. After a long pause, she whispered, You could have destroyed me completely, couldn't you? Yes, I admitted. And part of me wanted to. But I didn't need to. Karma did its work. Life did its work. And I simply survived. She looked at me then, her eyes wide, filled with fear, regret, and a deep sorrow I would never forget. You're alive. And I can't believe it. I smiled faintly. Believe it. Because from now on, this is my life. My choice. My ending. And I will not let anyone take it from me again. Her body sagged, her head bowed. I understand. I turned toward the door. Remember this moment, I said softly. Remember what it feels like to lose someone you took for granted. Remember what it feels like to face the truth too late. She didn't respond. She couldn't. She was silent, broken, humbled. I walked out of the apartment, into the cool night air. The streets felt alive, vibrant. I breathed in deeply, letting the wind fill my lungs. I was free. Strong. Whole. And finally, at peace. Behind me, she remained, facing her own choices, her own regrets. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. My life, my story, my ending, it belonged to me now. I whispered into the night, I am alive. I have returned. And nothing can touch me again. And for the first time in years, I truly believed it.